I work with adults getting their mindset open. It's interesting because adults will be skeptical and they'll say, I must be doing this. I must be doing that. The blind will do the same thing. This last person I was working with, she was finally able to see color for the first time, very much able to distinguish color, able to tell the different wavelengths of light now.
This is our mutual friend who literally does not have eyes. It's absolutely astounding what's happening with her. So I know who you're talking about, Dahlia. She's going to have that documentary made about her.
Yeah, she's never seen light a day of her life. And so I would do this meditation 3 times a day. And there was one time I was doing it and I see like 7 angels flying over me. And I remember telepathically, they were saying their different jobs. And the ones that said for healing, you can always just ask us to go and heal someone. I've since learned from Lidu, they're around us 24 hours a day. They're not in another place. They are right here. We have a team. She says they're telepathic. And so all you have to do is think and they'll hear everything they do. She made it seem like this is like a virtual reality. And the angels are kind of like our friends on the other side. And we're in the same level as they are. And so they love us just like we love them. We're the same level and they're just watching us play the game and they're just there to help us out. And they're helping us not because they're above us or anything. They're helping us because we're one of them. They're like, we're kin, and we would do the same for them if they were playing the game at the time. She did say that there are entities out there besides angels. Besides, she says that there are people that haven't been born yet that she can talk to or have never had a body. But she said there are also other entities that are very benevolent that are also helping us to evolve. And they are helping us with our telepathy. And they can actually even join in and help us with our day-to-day life if we need help. And so there are other beings with our best interests in mind.
Welcome to Fire in the Cosmos. This is episode 9, and I'm here with my new co-host, Sinead, and a very special guest today, Dahlia. How are you doing, Dahlia?
Very, very good. Thank you.
We're so excited to have you here. So, Dalia Burgoin, am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Burgoin or Burgoin?
If you're from France or if you're from those parts of Canada where they were speaking good French, they pronounce it the way you just did. But I say Burgoin.
Okay, cool. So Dahlia is a devoted mother of 4, an author, and an energy arts practitioner specializing in awakening humanity's natural intuitive abilities. She trains in a yin-style bioenergy system to support healing and enhance psi capacities like telepathy and extraocular or blindfolded vision. She helps to activate Mindsight, also known as extraocular vision, to both adults and blind individuals, and advocates for spelling to communicate and telepathy as accessible forms of nonverbal communication. Dahlia has shared her work on This Is the Place, Utah, Good Day, Utah, or Fox 13, and Good Morning, Utah, ABC. And she collaborates with leading consciousness researchers, including a friend of ours, Alex Gómez-Marin from the Pari Center in Italy, John Chavez from DMT Quest, and Dr. Diane Hennacy, made famous by her work with the Telepathy Tapes. Her work is featured in an upcoming documentary about a woman with no physical eyes. This is Dahlia's work. A woman with no physical eyes who developed functional perception under her guidance. And she is in active discussions with the Institute of Noetic Sciences, IONS, about research partnerships. Her daughter, Lidu Burgoin, is a teen telepath and artistic savant who continues to defy expectations. Though diagnosed with severe autism that affects her ability to speak, she is steadily gaining motor skills and speech through determination and innovative communication methods. Lidu participates in clinical research on telepathy with Dr. Diane Hennacy of the Telepathy Tapes, as well as Stanford, and is featured in several upcoming documentaries and series, including work with Gaia. Together, Dahlia and Lidu's mission is to spread the teachings from The Hill, which was discussed in the Telepathy Tapes, and to help evolve humanity by making telepathy known to the world. Thank you so much, Dahlia. What an amazing bio, and the work that you and Lidu are doing is so amazing, and I was so excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. It's like this work just came to us. It was like we were called to do it because I was never planning ever to go public or anything with the kind of work I did. It was always kind of hidden and I did everything by word of mouth. But once it was the right time and we were being called to do it, I just knew it was like, we're being told it's safe now. Go out in the public. We are supposed to do it. My daughter is very, very much about going out there and letting the world know about telepathy and the teachings. That's what she calls it, the teachings. And I'm just, if she says it, I'm very much on board with her, and it feels right and it feels good. And so it's exciting times.
Very much so. Very, very much so. Yeah, we're so delighted to have you here, Dahlia. And, especially because you are becoming, even though you said you never thought you'd be public in any way, you're becoming a little bit of a someone in the field because of this big splash that you made recently at Contact in the Desert on stage demonstrating with Lidu. So we wanted to talk about that and all the more recent things that are happening for you and your experience and Lidu's experience as well, if that's okay with you. You are her mom and you're protecting her and looking out for her, but we do want to talk about her a little bit because she's so fascinating. But while Lidu is 14 years old and still a child, is actually your childhood that we wanted to start with. So the first question we wanted to ask you was, what were you like when you were a child?
Yeah, so, I was really different than Lidu when I was a child. I very much got along with other kids, and I was always out playing. I was always in the street, like playing until the street lights turned off, and that's when I knew I had to go in. I was almost never home, playing video games and lots of friends. But I did have some abilities when I was a kid that I very much remember. One of them was I did have a form of telepathy. Like, I very much did. And I was able to read people's minds very easily. I knew what they were thinking. I knew what they were going to say. And I remember wondering, why is it, at first I thought it was just adults. I said, why is it that they can't tell what each other's going to say? They always look surprised and they always act surprised. And I thought it was so weird. But then when I went to school, I noticed other kids weren't using telepathy either. They weren't using their telepathy. And so I remember it was almost like I had an unfair advantage, and people would always ask me, how did I know certain things? I'm like, it's obvious. Like, I can just read their mind. But that was the last I remember being able to do that was around first grade. And then I don't remember it anymore. So now my experience about being able to read anything of a person, it almost feels like, how do I say it? It almost feels like I can feel what they're feeling. And then it's almost like I kind of project what my idea is of what they might be feeling. So it's not the same as when I was a kid where I knew exactly what they were thinking. So that was one thing I remember. I remember having telepathy as a kid. And then I also remember having these beings that I used to talk to, who I very much thought were kind of like family. I remember thinking that they had my best interests in their mind, and listening to them was a good idea. So I remember that also being a thing, and that going away also around the same age. I remember specifically having a memory talking to one, and she told me something, and I remember saying, okay. And then my aunt walks in and she looked really scared and said, who are you talking to? And I remember when I answered her, I said, nobody. And because I remember thinking I must be doing something weird if she looked at me that way. And after that, I don't remember hearing it anymore after that. So there was that. And I also had these memories of whenever I would close my eyes as a kid, especially if I was laying down at night. It was like I would instantly go into another place, or it was like I would instantly dream. And sometimes if the dreams were scary, I didn't even want to close my eyes, because it was like as soon as I would close them, I would see like these images. So it was almost like an instant dream. And so I remember that being a thing too, which I hardly see. None of these abilities really have moved on. But I remember as a kid, though, knowing that I was supposed to do some kind of healing work as an adult. So I remember seeing these visuals all the time of me healing, laying on a hand. And I remember, but I was wearing Asian clothes like every time. And I remember thinking, so I'm putting my hands on people kind of like Jesus did, but I'm wearing these Asian garments. And I was really, really drawn to martial arts. And I remember thinking, but it's not the actual fighting I'm drawn to. I'm drawn to kata and whenever they're doing the stuff with energy, but I don't quite understand why I'm so drawn to it. And then it was about my teenage years. I got really into meditation. I was always into meditation. But even when I was 4 years old, I was always going to holy places and sitting there. I would go by myself. I would just walk to these holy places by myself and just kind of feel the energy. I remember knowing for sure, like the difference between a man, their perspective versus what was actually coming from the other side. And I remember having a lot of love for whenever messages were kind of flawed or anything, and thinking it's okay. They're saying it from their point of view. I understand there's a difference. And I remember thinking it's all good though. It's still good. But I remember all of that. As a teenager, I got really into highly into meditation and just having experiences. I didn't really I started going out of body when I was in my early years, like maybe when I was a late teenager and in college, I was going out of body a lot. And sometimes it was
Like
uncontrollable and it was
spontaneously?
very, yeah, it was
Spontaneously?
usually
Okay.
spontaneous. I did also do it on a purpose, but a lot of the times it was spontaneous and I didn't like it. It was kind of scary back
Hmm.
then. Um,
Wow.
but then once I found the energy system that I was going to practice, I knew it was them because as soon as I met them, I remember thinking, wow, this is just like the images I had as a kid about it being an Asian system, but you're laying on pants. I'm like, this is it. And so I
Cool.
joined and then I got much better at having the out of body experiences. And I actually did have experiences where I was able to communicate with angels and stuff, where I actually did have an experience where I saw them one time. Not like my
Wow.
daughter who sees them real time all the time. So I saw them one time, but I did have many out of body experiences and out of dimensional experiences. So that was something that happened like on a weekly basis. And I would get a lot of information that way. But it did slow down a lot once I started having my kids because there's a few reasons I think it might be. I think it's because it's hard for it to get quiet. It's almost never quiet in my house now. So there's a few reasons I think that's the case. But that's a little grand scope of my background. So the whole thing with consciousness, that's always been my life. That's just
Mm,
something that's always been a part of my life. But I never really shared it with others because it was so special to me. I
mhm.
never shared that. So I would let people see all these other sides of me. And if they ever, people usually didn't say anything negative to me. I had I got along really well with people. But if they ever did say anything negative about those sides of me, I'm like, that's not even really me. It doesn't matter. But if I had put out my spiritual side and they said something negative, it would have hurt. And so I was very protective of it.
Mm,
But
mm.
yeah, now I feel very much like this is the time to let it all come out.
Could not agree more. Anthony, I know you want to say something. Go for it.
Oh wow, yeah. Wow, Dahlia, that's amazing. There's so much there. I mean, I don't know about you, Sinead, but I want to hear a bit about those angels. Like, what can you share a bit about that and
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
how?
so
too.
I've always had a knowing, at least I had an understanding that you can always ask your angels to help you. But my understanding was a little bit different than what Lidu taught me. And so my understanding was that you ask for help and you will get the help in some way. But my understanding was you ask, they're somewhere else, and then they come over maybe and they'll help you. But I did have that experience a lot. Like I would ask and I would get help and I would see it would be instant all the time. It would be nearly instant. But I did have this one experience where I was doing what I call the lying down meditation. So I would do this meditation 3 times a day where I kind of lay down and I, expand from my body and forget my body senses. And so I would do that 3 times a day. And there was one time I was doing it and I remember looking up and I see like 7 angels flying over me. And I remember telepathically getting information saying, hey, they were saying their different jobs. And the ones that said for healing, you can always just ask us to go and heal someone. But they said it wasn't just you. They said everybody can do it. And I was like, that is really, really cool. And
Wow.
so I remember having that experience. They looked kind of like what you would picture an angel to look like. I've since learned from Lidu, I'll just tell you her point of view. So Lidu says,
Yeah.
yes, the angels are telepathic. They're around us 24 hours a day. They're not in another place. They are right here, like all day long. We have a team. And she just said, we all have like different numbers, but it's about the right amount of numbers, like having 7, but you have access to many others. But she says they're telepathic. And so all you have to do is think and they'll hear everything. Even when I always think when people say use telepathy or they're telepathic, I think like, well, when we pray, that's the same thing. You're just kind of, even if you're not talking, they still
Mm,
hear it. And
mhm.
like that's telepathy is just a new word for prayer, I think.
Oh,
But
I love that.
yeah, and so she was saying, yeah, they're telepathic. They hear you, but they will never interfere if you don't ask them to. And so she says, if you ever need them to, just let them know. She made it seem like this is how I understood it from Lidu. She made it seem like this is like a virtual reality. Let's just call it like we're playing a virtual reality game, and the angels are kind of like our friends on the other side. And we're in the same level as they are, and so they love us just like we love them. We're the same level, and they're just watching us play the game, and they're just there to help us out. And they're helping us not because they're above us or anything. They're helping us because how do you say it? Because we're one of them. They're like we're
Wow.
kin. And so that's kind of how I understood it from Lidu. Like we are like on
Wow.
the same level and they're doing it, and we would do the same for them if they were playing the game at the time. So
Very
Wow.
interesting. I love that. I wonder if she's referring to I mean, I'm assuming she's referring to our true selves, like our higher self, the self that is made of
mhm.
love and wisdom, is connected to the universe, not this kind of human overlay where we get caught up in like consumerism and other stuff that's not terrifically angelic. But just going back to what you were saying, I'm curious because you said the angels looked like how you would imagine angels would look like. So do you mean long flowing robes and wings and that whole deal? They look like, and they're glowing and all of that. That's what you saw? Something like that?
Yeah, that's what I saw. And Lidu explained they will show themselves in a way that you expect. And so for me, that's kind of how I imagine an angel with wings and stuff. And so
Got it.
that is how they show up for a lot of people. And another thing she said, sorry, I just thought I heard some screaming, but it's all good. So yeah, like she said that they do show up in any way that we expect, and they all have different colors. This is really interesting. She says they have different colors depending on their job. So, for example, she said like a
Mm.
blue one is like a teacher one. And so oftentimes if a teacher one is helping us, then we will emit blue. So she's explaining these little things it's really interesting about it.
That is
Wow.
so
Yeah, the
cool.
color thing is fascinating because I brought this up in other interviews, like this notion of synesthesia, just sensing different senses through different means, whether it's like perceiving color through emotion or touch or whatever it is. Yeah, it's so common in these phenomena, and that's interesting that she said that about angels. And I know you've talked about it with your Mindsight work as well, this ability to sense colors beyond what we consider vision. And for these angels, were they? I mean, were you able to see them physically, or was this with your eyes closed?
I believe my eyes were kind of half open. Definitely, I wasn't focusing with my eyes because I wasn't even feeling my body at the time. so,
Mm,
so yeah,
mm.
it wasn't physical, but it very much was. It felt like it was physical.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the only time I've actually remember seeing them. But if you ask Lidu, she'll say she sees them all the time, like in real time. She doesn't
Wow.
have
That
to
is so
send or
cool.
do anything. Yeah, and it's more than just angels. She sees other beings and entities too. And she's taught me all about that kind of stuff. Like it's so fascinating. Like everything she says. And not only can she see them in real time, but she talks to them in real time.
Wow.
And so I'll say, if I have a question, I'll say, Lidu, what did the angel say about this? And she'll say, well, they're saying this. And she'll say it in real time. Or if it was someone else's angel, whether they're in the room or not, they're saying this because there is no time or space with them. And it's just, yeah, when you get into it, it just gets so crazy.
Yeah.
It really is.
You shared. Sorry, Sinead. I'll let you go ahead.
No, Anthony, go ahead. I'm just exclaiming. Like it really is amazing. I mean, she's quite an extraordinary girl. I mean, I'm just thinking of all the people that commented on that, meeting her in person at Contact in the Desert. Several people said that she really has something. There's something. I'm hesitant to say special about her because that's an overused phrase, but that there's something different. There's an energy about her that people pick up that makes her seem unusual in a really uplifting kind of way. Like it's her energy. Yeah. It's quite remarkable. Anyway,
Yeah,
that was
I
it,
was
Anthony.
surprised about that myself. A lot of people came up and they said the same words. I felt this presence when she was around. They would use that phrase. I remember the first person said it. He said, "Oh, I felt this presence," and then I looked up and I saw your daughter, but she wasn't actually in the room. He saw almost like an ethereal presence of her. And I just remember thinking, I don't know, is that true? I've never heard anyone kind of say that. I mean, I've heard of many other things, but not that one. But that same day, I heard like 5 other people tell me the same thing and the same words. And then, not only that, right after Contact, we did some experiments with some scientists, and the scientists were using those words and said the same thing.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, so there really is something to this. She is really doing something here to let these people know that this stuff is real.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so at Contact, the panel that you're a part of, where you and Lidu did a presentation, correct?
Yes.
Or gave a demonstration. Can you share a bit, if you remember this, do you remember what message she gave you that you shared with the audience about NHI?
I don't remember, but okay, I'll just tell you
Or
what
the gist of it?
yeah, I wish I remembered exactly. When she says stuff, I don't really remember everything because it's just so much. And then I get so caught up in like the wow of it. But she did say that she did say that there are entities out there besides angels. Besides, she says that there are people that haven't been born yet that she can talk to or have never had a body. But she said there are also other entities that are very benevolent that are also helping us to evolve. And they are helping us with our telepathy. And they can actually even join in and help us with our day-to-day life if we need help. And so there are other beings with our best interests in mind. She said that they communicate with us through sound. At least she's picking up their information through sound. In fact, a lot of her telepathy is through sound. She when she is doing telepathic messages and she's spelling out what she sees on the letterboard, it is she says she uses her ears to see the letters, and she's actually seeing the things in the air, but it's always mentioned is through frequencies through her ears. So I don't know how that works. I do
That's
know
so
with
cool.
Mindsight though, that is one of the things I work on with people is I get them to be able to tell things apart by sound and then associate it to visual. So I do, it's funny that you brought up the synesthesia because I very much work on that a lot, where because visual is the end goal, I will get them really good at being able to tell things apart just by various senses. So not just sound, but also by touch and by where they feel it in their body and just these various ways, even if they're not touching it, but being near it, being able to tell. And then at a distance, being able to tell through these very different senses, one at a time. And then we'll associate all of those senses and say, okay, now show them a visual. Like every time this happens, every time they know what it is, show them the visual at the same time. So that's how it always starts. And then we'll go into actually bringing out the mindsight. And bringing out the mindsight means the inner light comes out. Because, with our eyes, we need light to see. And so to mimic that, whatever it is that it's coming from, it needs, some people say it's the pineal gland. I don't know. I just know that our body, or we make light. We will create a light. This is the same for blind people. Like blind people will create a light that they see through. And it's so amazing when it's with blind people because it's very mind-blowing. It's so funny because with I work with adults getting their mindset open. I don't work with kids, just adults, and there's not that many out there that work with adults. It's interesting because adults will be skeptical, especially if they open too fast. And so I actually kind of put them through a process so they don't open too fast and question everything. But adults are very skeptical and they'll say, I must be doing this. I must be doing that. But then it really doesn't add up, and it doesn't, live up to their questions. And they'll realize, like, no, it doesn't add up. Like everything I'm saying doesn't add up. But the blind will do the same thing. They'll say, I must be sensing it in some other way. They'll always say that. I'm like, how is it? How is it that you're sensing light through sound? Like the different colors of light. How is it that you can actually tell the difference between light and, something you've never been able to do before? And you're like, yeah, you're right. This last person I was working with, she was finally able to see color for the first time, very much able to distinguish color. And one of the first things she says is, I still think I'm using my senses. And I'm like, well, number one, sight is a sense. So yes, you are using your senses. Now, number two, how do you explain being able to tell the wavelengths of light apart? First of all, you've never seen light before. Now you're seeing light. You're not touching it. You're not hearing it. But you're able to tell the different wavelengths of light now. And she's like, yeah, you're right. I really can't explain it.
So someone who's
you're
been
talking
blind
about our
like since
mutual.
birth?
Sorry, yes, it was she.
Yes.
This is our mutual friend who literally does not have eyes. I mean, how is this happening?
Wow.
There's absolutely no possibility at all that she could be cheating in any way or even unintentionally cheating. It's just not possible. It's absolutely astounding what's happening with her. So I know who you're talking about, Dahlia. She's going to have that documentary
she has
made about
never
her.
seen light. Yeah, she's never seen light a day in her life. And not only...
Oh yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but would you mind just giving the audience like a backgrounder before we get into this story, because it's amazing, just a backgrounder on Mindsight and kind of walk them through like the methodology of how you train someone and what it actually is that you're trying to do with them.
Okay, so Mindsight is the ability, some people call it extraocular vision, some people call it blindfold vision, extra retinal vision. Mindsight is the ability to be able to detect things in our world using visual means, but we're not actually using our eyes. So we don't know how we're doing it. Some people think we might be doing it through the skin, dermal. That doesn't really explain how we could do it where we can cover the skin and still do it. But we don't know how we're doing it, but we just know that we don't need our eyes to actually see. We can actually detect things in a visual way without them. And so even if you've never seen a day in your life, even if you have no eyes, you can actually just start using these senses that you were born with. This is not like a psychic thing that you have to train 20 years to do. This is a sense that you were already born with. It's just about starting to use it. You know how, like, for example, let's say you have a sense, maybe you're really good at hearing and maybe you're good at seeing, but you're not, maybe your sense of smell is not that good. You can always develop your sense of smell to get really good. Within one day, you can develop it. And so it's the same thing. This is a sense we already have, this ability to see the world without our eyes. We already have it. And it's just about developing it so that it gets as good as your other senses. And so that's how I see it. It's something that's not that mystical. It's something we can already do. And the only thing that makes it mystical is people just don't realize we can do it. And and it's limited to and it's not even limited to using light and seeing the way we do with our eyes. That's just, we're just doing that in that way because people want to have the experience of seeing the way that our eyes see. But you can actually see in the darkness too. And you can see things that are behind you. And there's different ways you can use Mindsight. But I focus specifically with the blind on getting them to kind of see the way we do with our eyes. And so that's why we focus on letting them be able to determine light and bring in that inner light so that they can have a similar experience. So Mindsight is that ability to see the world in a visual way without the use of the eyes. So for the sighted, we will use a blindfold to have that experience. And so we'll actually, once you're good with doing it with a blindfold, we like to have fun and test it out and put lots of stuff over our eyes. So I usually will put tape over my eyes. In the demonstration, I put tape over my eyes. I also put another set of pirate patches. So
the demonstration at Contact in the Desert?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I put my blindfold over that. So I had 3 layers on. And then I actually went and I was reading whatever people gave me, I was reading it. And so it's just showing them
that was amazing. We'll show a clip of that.
Yeah. So just it's funny too, because I could see much more than just what's in front of me, what I'm focusing on. I mean, that's the easiest way is to see what you're focusing on. But there was a lot of people that said, wait a minute, how did you, for example, I went up to someone in the audience and I said, hey, I saw you yesterday. I was working with you. He's like, how did you know it was me? And I was like, well, yeah, I can see. And our people were surprised that I could go up to the seat and I knew where certain things were. I'm like, well, of course I can see, but the whole point is I could see. And so I think some people have this understanding and make assumptions that, oh, in order to see, she has to turn it on each time. I was like, no, I'm seeing in real time. It's the same as if I was using my eyes. And
you were seeing colors. That was you were able to read things and say what color they were. To me, that was just mind blowing.
Yeah, it was interesting too, because I wasn't expecting Ron to get behind me and start with the colors behind me. And so when he did, I was like, oh, okay, we're starting that way. All right. And so we started the demonstration with it behind me and with the colors. So that was pretty interesting. Usually,
are you able to tell? I mean, in that case, because he was standing there, obviously you knew he was behind you. But if you were just to receive like a bit of data information, whether it's a color or a word or something, when you're blindfolded using Mindsight, are you able to tell like spatially where it is in the 3D?
Yes.
You are.
Wow. Yeah, it's very similar to when you're using your regular eyes, except so what I always say is it kind of looks like your mask has a bunch of holes in it. That's kind of what it appears, or it looks like you have holes in your head too, in the back of your head and stuff. And so when you look and focus into these areas, we call them windows, they will do certain things. So my windows in the front, I'm very, very proficient at reading. It looks exactly like my regular eyes because that's how I usually see the world. The ones behind me, I don't use them as much. And so those ones, I mostly just see colors and shapes. I don't really read very well. In fact, I can see it's very weird how it works. I can see what the letters look like, but I can't register them. It's like I see them, but it's almost like Greek. I can't register what it actually says. And then I put it in the front, like, oh, okay, I can see it now. Or I can register it. And so that's kind of how the back windows are, but that's something that I can always work on. Like, and I can always make things better. So yeah, it's just the only limitation is our mind. The Mindsight reminds me of my daughter. A lot of people think kids with non-speakers, number one, that they're never going to speak, that their motor skills, they're not able to do certain things. So my daughter is actually, I'm using the same process on her. She's actually really defying what people think people with autism, a special, level 3 autism can do. So right now, she's actually gotten to the point where she can express herself verbally in many, many ways. She can, most of them don't have the motor skills to hold a letterboard themselves and spell by themselves. They usually need someone to hold it. It's very, very hard for them to focus on, because for them, they have to focus on holding it. They have to focus on tracking the letter, and then also getting their hand to the right place. All of it takes extra focus. But she's gotten to the place, we progress her every single day, and she's gotten to the place where she can do it. And so it's just about whatever people think is not humanly possible. I'm always about, yes, it is. If you can think it, it's possible, and we can do it. And it's the same with the blind. A lot of them will think, this person that I just worked with, for example, she thought because she has never seen light and she has no eyes and she was born blind, it was going to be a lot harder for her. She would say phrases like that. Oh, it's going to be harder for me because of this and that. It'll be easier for someone that have seen before. It'll be easier for someone that is sighted to open their eyesight. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to accept that. No, it's the same, And I was very, very confident. And because I was so confident in it, and she saw me as an authority, she accepted it and she allowed it to happen. In reality, like, I really don't need to be there. And I also do I don't want her to hear that, like, or like, I don't want her to think like, wait a minute, like, but yeah, like, I also do a process where that is very, very acceptable to the adult brain. They're like, okay, there's a rational reason every step works. And so that's how they allow it to happen. But in reality, they've had the ability the entire time, their whole life. And they're just allowing me to hold that space, and they have a belief that it's going to work, and there's a reason for it to work, and then they allow it to work.
And, speaking of that, Dahlia, because you're touching again on the process that people go through when they're learning this. And also a minute or two ago, you were talking about where you personally are at with it, right? Like for you, it's easy at this point. You can walk around with tape and pirate patches and a blindfold, and you're not bumping into anything, and you know where everything is. Using, those two kind of goalposts of like where people are at as they learn in the process of learning and where you have arrived at. And not to mention, I know you feel like you've always got more learning to do, more practice to do. You're going to keep practicing and evolving your own experience. But there is a structure to this, right? Like there's a way. I have seen you teach. I've seen you teach multiple times, and you're a very, very good teacher. And one of the reasons that I think you're so good at it, and I'm an educator. I do know, a little bit about like effective instruction and how to make something land for someone else. And it can't just be the same way every time. You really have to fine tune it to the student that you're working with, right? And make sure it's accessible to them. And you do such an amazing job of that. Yet you are using still this methodology to help people learn. And one of the steps is called calibration. And I would really love it if you could talk a bit more about calibration and all the different ways in which it works for people, because I'm thinking of working with the person we're not mentioning, but our mutual friend who was born without eyes and is now doing so incredibly well in Mindsight. It's astonishing. And then another blind person who you and I know, who came to our training session where we finally met in person a couple months ago. And she was having a lot of difficulty at first with calibration, but then she got the hang of it through using her own instincts and having her own body and mind tell her what the colors were that she was holding. She didn't know what they were, completely blind, can't see any colors at all. And it was through calling one a truck and calling the other one an umbrella. That's how she started to calibrate. So can you talk about how that works? Because this is going to sound so weird to people when they don't understand it, but I know you're going to explain it very, very well. So please go for it.
Yeah, thank you. And I totally agree with that. Having the instinct to be able to adjust to each person is so important, especially, so I do appreciate that you coming from an educating background and understanding of that importance. And calibration, it's so fun. So calibration is the idea, like, this is how I use it, that there is an infinite amount of ways you can tell things apart. There's an infinite amount. If you two pieces of paper that are equal in every way except the color is different, and you will be blindfolded, you'll have your eyes closed, and people will trust me because they see me as an authority, and I'll say, you can definitely tell these apart. I just want you to feel it. We start with something that they're capable of believing, that they can tell by feel. And most people believe that they can tell two things apart by just feeling it. And so I give it to them. And at first, it's always going to be subtle. it's always subtle because you're just not used to being able to tell things apart by feel, and you're blinded, you've got your eyes closed. I'll say, go ahead and tell me the difference between the two. And so they'll say maybe one is higher and one is lower. In whatever words come to their mind, that's all I want to hear. I'm like, I don't care what it is. I prefer them not to say colors. Like this one feels green. I'm like, no, let's not use colors because that's a visual thing. I want you to use a touch word if you can, but you can also say, this feels like the smell of perfume, or this feels like a truck, like Sinead said, this feels like a truck, and this feels like a candy bar. So you can say things like that, and you can literally get to the point where I could do it 100 times, and you will always be able to tell them apart because one feels like a truck and one feels like a candy bar. So when I start calibration, I'll start with where you believe you can be. Like most people believe they can do touch, so I usually start with touch, and we'll do the 3 different ways that you can tell them apart. And so the idea is every single time you're doing it, your brain is saying, okay, she wants information in this way. When she touches it, she wants to be able to tell them apart. And so your brain makes it easier every single time. And so I'll do maybe 3 different ways you can tell it apart. And it gets to the point where it's ridiculously easy. So at first it's super subtle. It's like almost impossible. At least that's what you think. And then after a few minutes, it's so easy. It's so ridiculously easy that you feel like you're cheating. And sometimes I can tell, I can feel it in their energy. Like they think they're cheating right now. Let me just tell them. I'm like, it's okay. If you think you're cheating, that's all good. It's all information. It doesn't matter. Like if you think you found a trick to tell the 2 apart, it's okay. It's like, just accept that. It's just telling your brain, this is how I want the information. Good, good. And also, yes, it's supposed to get that easy. That's what we're looking for. And so they're like, okay, I get it. And so again, we'll just start with just colors and just pieces of paper that are identical. And then we move on to different other things. Like, for example, we will start calibrating my sound. And so I might scratch, like, let's say I have 2 pieces of paper, and I might scratch them both, and they'll say, okay, that one sounds like this person that we worked with, she said, that one sounds like techno, and the other one sounds like binaural beats. And so she was able to tell them apart instantly. And so also an important thing about calibration is they cannot, there is no right or wrong. I never tell them, you got that right, you got that wrong. I never say anything like that. I just mix them up, I shuffle. And then I say, tell me which one is, whatever words they say. So let's say truck and candy bar. Tell me which one's truck, which one's candy bar. And then they'll tell me. I'll do it maybe 6 times until it's consistent. Once it's consistent, I'm like, okay, I know which one's truck and which one's candy bar now. And so after that, what I'll do is they'll say, this one is truck. And I'll like, yes, and I'll always say yes because the brain understands that, like, oh, this is what she wants. And so I'm like, yes, every time they get it. If they actually do the opposite, I'll say like, oh, it's actually the opposite. It's actually the other one. So now I want you to really tune in and notice how crazy different that is. Notice how dramatically different it is. And they really tune in. So every time they get the opposite, it's actually a good thing because it'll like tune it in even more. And so, so we do that until they get really, really good. And then we'll go to another sense, and we do it till they're good at all their senses. And so once you're really good at the senses close by, and there's also senses we work with that most people don't think we have. Like, for example, just being able to tell it apart by being close to it. For example, I'll say, just put your hands above it and tell me the way you feel. And so they'll tell me these different things. And then eventually I'm like, no, let's do it without the hands. And so I'll just bring it up and they can do it without the hands. And then I'll do it a little bit once they're good at everything close by, because everyone believes they can do things close by, then I'm like, well, now let's try it. And then I'll be a little bit further away. And then I get to the point where I could do all of them very far away, and they could just tell them all apart. And I always tell them at first, just focus on the one sense. Like, for example, the sense of where in your body do you feel it? That's a really good one for far away. Like once you're good at close, then you can do it far away. Or the sound, that one's really easy for far away. But once they could do it far away and they could do it with all their senses, I say, okay, now you know what? You have all these different ways of telling it apart. Just let it all come in. Like, just any way you could tell it apart now, just tell me, and I could just lift it up. And then we start telling, throughout, I'm actually gradually telling them, hey, I want you to visualize what it is. Like, because I gradually tell them what the color is. For example, if it's color, I'll gradually tell them at some point. I'll say, yes, that's the yellow. Yes. So at first I'm not saying it, but later on I'm saying it. Because I never want them. Another thing I'm training them out of is the idea of guessing or worrying about getting it right or wrong. And so that's why I don't have them say what the actual color is and stuff at first. But once I know it's very consistent, I'll gradually introduce the idea of visual to them by saying, okay, I want you to, now that you know, I've said it many times. They know what the color is. I say, so now I want you to say, this one's the truck, or whatever the word was. This one's the truck. So that means it must be. So I have them start the sentence that way, because if they just say this is yellow, it kind of messes up the brain a little bit. So they'll say this is the truck. So that means it must be yellow. And so they'll start saying that. And then eventually I say, okay, now I want you to just think the part where you say this is a truck and just say this is yellow. And so they gradually get there. We're training them out of guessing. There's no guessing here. It's always like, I'm 100% sure this is what it is. Even when I'm at a distance, even if I'm in another room, same thing. They can just tell it apart with complete confidence. Because of how it's gradually done. So that's the one thing. There's two things I want people to always understand is, number one, I don't want you guessing. There's no guessing here. You're doing exactly what you sense. This is a sensory thing. Let's just stop calling it intuition. It is intuition. But some people, when they think intuition, they think guess. So I say, let's not even call it intuition. So that's one thing. We don't want you to guess. And the other, I forgot what the other thing was. But
it'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back.
I mean, you're making me think of Dahlia. You're making me think of so many things. You're making me think of the fact that, a big part of the calibration and the training and the methodology of learning how to do mindsight or anything intuitive, I guess, is just getting out of the left brain, getting out of what we want the answer to be, what we think it should be, what category we think it should be in. Like when you're talking about not identifying things by being right or wrong or being the actual color, that's, of course, trying to get us out of our left brain and into our right. But then you're also talking so much about the intelligence of the body as well, right? The intelligence that the body has and how much information the body is giving us that we don't necessarily pay attention to in normal or so-called normal testing atmospheres, right? Like if you're taking an exam for whatever course you've ever taken in high school and university, college, you're not paying any attention to what's happening from the neck down. You're only focusing on what's happening up here and that's how we live most of the time. But our bodies have so much intelligence. And that's one of the things I really love about Mindsight is how much, and you as a teacher too, like when you're working with people, is how much you're involving the whole system in helping the person figure out Mindsight. You're not allowing them to just stay in their head.
Yeah, thanks for that. You actually reminded me what the second thing was. The second thing was getting them out of the idea of having to perform. And so if they don't know an answer, I want them to say, you know what, I'm not sure. I want them to always say that, because then I say, and if I notice they're hesitating, if they're not sure, I'm like, not going to let you answer. I'm going to shuffle again. Don't even want you guessing. And if they're not sure, I want them to say they're not sure. And so I'll always offer and say, let you compare it. Like, let's do a comparison. So it's always comparing in the beginning until they are very sure and they get into that point where they're just not guessing. And so the whole thing with the left brain, I actually feel like we have to give the left brain a job. And so because if people are just battling the left brain the whole time, they're just going to get upset with themselves. and so to me, the left brain's job is to understand the process and why we're doing it a certain way. And so throughout, I'll always say, I'm doing this because of blah. This is good for blah. Your brain is doing this right now. Your brain is doing that right now. And so this gives the left brain some importance and understanding what its function is. And so it's a part of it. So it's not actually fighting you the whole time, trying to so it's like, okay, we'll do this. And it's very occupied as the right brain is doing its thing. So
it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It reminds me of our training when our teacher, Rob Freeman, would say, okay, there's a noise outside, there's a lawnmower or there's whatever. He'd say, don't try to block it out. Let it be there. Like, let it distract you. Let it distract your left brain. Because your left brain is busy going, oh, there's a lawnmower over there, and identifying what it is and imagining what it looks like, while your right brain has the opportunity to dive into this, esoteric work that we're doing. And I think it's so fascinating, too, what you were talking about, holding a color or a shape or whatever it is you're trying to get your student to identify, when you hold it really far away from them. I mean, I witnessed that several times. It's amazing. It makes me think of remote viewing and how you kind of send the mind out into the universe and it goes to where it wants to go and sees what it wants to see. It's ultimately the same kind of concept, but it's not remote viewing. It's still the consciousness doing its amazing thing, right? Because we can send our consciousness anywhere we want to, really. But it seems so impossible. And I do understand why there's a lot of skepticism. I mean, even with your incredible demo and the fact that you were saying, on tape, on the recording of your demonstration at Contact in the Desert, you were saying, okay, now I'm putting tape on my eyes. Now I'm putting these on. Like you were narrating what you were doing so that the audience was aware that you were addressing this with ethics and you were doing, you're really obliterating your vision. And I've seen you practice with black cardboard also in front of or black construction paper, thick construction paper in front of your mask. And you can still see things through it. So, I mean, it's incredibly fascinating that our minds are able to do these things. And I love also that while it's incredible, you're so grounded, Dahlia, in your experience, and you help people become grounded in their own experience while you're teaching them and working with them. And it makes it feel more accessible and more normal, which I think people are sometimes suspicious of, but I think it's important for it to be presented as, hey, we can all do this. You just have to kind of do the work. Like you have to be willing to actually practice and do the work.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And I also, one of the things you mentioned is how I was able to get far away and people are still able to tell. So one of the things, because of our skepticism and because we don't believe we could do things, we start out not believing. So one of the things I do when we're actually working with Mindsight and your light coming in, and it's beyond just the normal, those other senses. What I normally do, and I did this with you, Sinead, is I'll trick the person. Because in the beginning, it's better to just trick them into using the Mindsight. And once they see what they've done, then they'll accept it. And so one example I did with you, Sinead, I don't know if you remember, but I had the colors behind you the whole time, and you kept on seeing them. And especially when I would shake it a little, and you would see it, and you would immediately sit up and you would say the color. And I remember afterwards, I told you what I was doing. I didn't tell you until after, and you said you were seeing them in the front. And so the whole time you thought you were seeing it here, but the whole time it was behind you. And that happens a lot with Mindsight. And that's what makes it better to do it with a partner, because you will always limit yourself. If you think the color is here, you're going to use your regular eyes and you're going to look that way, even though you have the blindfold on, and you're going to try to see it here. And that's the only place you're going to see it, and that's limiting. And so you can easily talk yourself into thinking you're peeking because of that. But what I've actually seen it, and I've done it where I would hold the colors and I would hold even shapes and stuff very, very far away, like behind the person, like 2 houses down. And they're, well, it wouldn't be me. It would be someone else. I have to develop these little tricks to get them to think that I'm next to them. And so they'll be far away. Someone else will be holding the thing far away. And I'm like, what color am I holding now? And then they'll say it. They'll just say like, because they think they're looking right here. They think they're like, however they're seeing it. And then I will tell them, look where you were actually looking. And they're like, what the, afterwards. And so it's always really good to kind of record them, not tell them where I'm looking. I trick them. And then once they see it, it becomes reality, and then they'll accept it better. But yeah, anyone that's practicing on their own, it's very easy to just close your own windows because you think maybe there must be some other explanation. My mask must be flawed. So many people think the Mindfold has openings on the bottom. It does not have openings on the bottom. It doesn't. And that's why, like, I always, when the person first works with me, I say, put the Mindfold on. I want you to tell me if you see anything at all. Is it possible for you to see down anywhere? No, it's not. Okay, hold up these colors. Can you see anything? No. Remember that, because it's never going to be like this again. It's going to change. And I want you to remember when you couldn't do it. And every time the progression happens, I say, remember, 5 minutes ago, you couldn't do that. Remember, 5 minutes ago, you couldn't do that. And so I'm constantly reminding them the whole time. Mm-hmm.
And just to address like some of those like skeptical and debunker claims. So it doesn't matter even if you slide it up a bit, as long as your eyes are still covered, you're still not going to see anything, right? Because some people say like, oh, I see them like sliding it up and.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. I guess it's possible to slide it up too high. But one thing is, if you have patches on, it is not possible. Because sometimes with our Mindsight, we can't tell, because we're seeing. You can't tell if you're covered enough. Like, you can't tell so I usually have to ask people, is it all covered? Because I still see no matter what. And it doesn't matter what blindfold I have. You can give me any blindfold you want and I will still see through it. I still need someone to tell me if it looks legit. Like if I have patches on, I definitely can't see. Like or at least my
Yeah.
eyes are totally covered. It's impossible to see through just the patches alone. And so even if the blindfold's a little higher, you shouldn't be able to see. Like anyone that's their mindset's not activated yet, they will not be able to see anything if the blindfold is up a little. And I've actually at one of these seminars I did, the one in January, I had a lot of people say, "Hey, Dahlia, can you demonstrate for my family?" And I'm like, "Sure." And so they would give me all of these things that their family said, "I will only believe it if she could do this," you know? And so this one person, he gave me this, I don't even know, this black cloth. And so I put it over my eyes. I always say, let me see if I could do it first before. So I put the black cloth over my eyes. Then he gave me these little goggles, like these little goggles to go over the black cloth and then tied it around my eyes really tight. And then we put the blindfold on and then I just read in front of his family doing it. And his family was like, whoa. And I also worked with a blind guy there and he was able to open and he was able to see a lot. And so he said, "Dahlia, can you demonstrate for my family?" I said, "Sure." And so I demonstrated. And then I said, "Now would you like him to demonstrate?" And so I put him on and then he demonstrated. It was very emotional and everything.
Wow, that
that's
sounds amazing.
incredible.
Mhm.
That's incredible. Yeah. Anthony, go on.
I
sorry.
wanted to ask you about the example you gave where you had someone stand like 2 houses down. In that case, were there any things physically obstructing the line of physical sight between the person doing the mindsight and the person holding whatever it was?
No, in that case, no. You know what's interesting? You know how with the senses, it gets a little, it starts off hard and then it gets easier and then I have to keep making it harder. Even if a person's blindfolded and they don't know that I'm making it harder, it's like the same process happens where it's they don't know I'm going farther away, but they do tell me, "Oh, it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder." Like, but it makes it, the harder I make it, at first I always start with the thing close to them and with the flashlight. And so they think the whole time I'm doing that. Eventually, really quickly, I'm getting really far away from them, or I'm having a helper get it far, and then I'm taking the flashlight away. So it's getting harder for them. And if I notice they're struggling, I'll bring it a little closer. But the whole time, it's just the brain knows what it's doing. It says, okay, I need to make this more efficient. I need to make this easier. Or if their windows are too small, they're like too small, I'll make it much harder. I'll make it so they have to see something much bigger and have to focus on something much bigger, and then the window will get bigger. So I've never actually put an obstruction, but I have noticed that if you do something like that, actually I do know a couple of people that has stuff in front of it, but I noticed that if you do that and they don't know that it's being obstructed, they can definitely see. And
That's what I was going to suggest. Because I mean, you are obstructing your eyes. Like the obstruction is there. I'm just wondering if it's removed from your physical body, if it still has the same effect.
Yeah, well, I had a researcher. This has happened to me a couple of times where the things were backwards, what I was looking at, and I kept on saying it. And then as soon as they said, "Oh, that's good because it's backwards," as soon as they said that, I'm like, "Why did you say that?" Now I can't see it. Now I just see it. And so yeah, that happens a lot. Or people will ask
fascinating.
me during these demonstrations, "Hey, can you see through stuff?" And I always hesitate because I'm like, I don't like, I'm always about, I only want to demonstrate what I know I can do. And I will tell you straight up, I'm like, I don't know if I could do that, but, but it actually happened a few times where I didn't know if the thing was see-through or not. Or, I just never seen the thing before. And I was able to see through a few things. And then afterwards, when I took off the blindfold, I'm like, oh, wow, that is not see-through. And so that's really cool when that happens. But it does really limit me to know that it's see-through. What was that?
What's an example of one of the things you had in front of you? Like what was blocking
So there was
your
this
vision?
black curtain in January. There was a black curtain and they asked me to see through it. And so at first I thought like, well, this is sheer. I'm like, this is sheer, but whatever, I'll tell them. And then when I took off the blindfold, I looked again. I was like, first thing I saw was my own shadow blocking, which I didn't see the shadow when I had the blindfold on. So that was the first thing I noticed was different. And then when I went through, I'm like, oh, wow, this is not sheer at all. And another thing was these cups. They asked me to look inside of a cup. They put something in a cup and asked me to look through. And I'm like, well, the cup is sheer. I remember thinking it's sheer. I can see through it. And then after it scuffed with the blindfold, I'm like, nope, it was not sheer. Okay.
Cool.
Wow. You know what that's reminding me of? I've had a few experiences actually on psilocybin mushrooms where I usually have like my protocol is to cover my eyes when I do it. I'm in an almost sensory deprived state. And I've had experiences where I get confused because I'm pretty certain that I have not removed the blindfold over my eyes or the shirt or whatever it is, but I'm seeing the room around me. And it's like you're describing, it's almost this like sheer perception where I can see lights and things like that and where everything is, but it looks like a little hazy. I
Yeah.
just remember that. Wow.
I notice when I get into a really, really deep meditation or a really relaxed state like that, I notice no matter how much I close my eyes, I could still see everything. So that happens a lot when you're in that kind of a state. And
Wow.
it's even easier than, it's even easier that way. You have no blind spots usually. Whereas with the blindfold, I do have blind spots. So I can still see it well enough to drive and stuff, which I wouldn't do. I mean, I've done it, but just to prove it to myself. But I can.
Do you think that's because it's actually suppressing the analytical mind a bit and
Yeah,
the
there's a
left
lot of
hemisphere?
analytical stuff going on when I'm doing it and I'm walking around. And so there's a lot of analytical stuff I have to work through still. But when I'm doing like I'm lying down, if I'm doing a hypnosis or like we have a hypnosis in our seminars. And whenever we're doing that, it pretty much always happens where I see everything with no blind spots. And so it's very cool how that kind
Wow.
of works.
Are there any
It's
other
interesting.
things that you tried in terms of changing the state you're in, whether it's like listening to certain kinds of music or maybe binaural frequencies or anything like that?
Yeah, we've tried all of that with the music and the binaural and playing around, acting like children and stuff.
Yeah.
And it all seems to help. Like just being in, as long as you're not in that state where you're just questioning everything and you're being analytical, that all seems to help a lot. My daughter will also say that in order for her to do telepathy, she says you have to be in a state of ecstasy. So she looks like she's having the time of her life whenever she's spelling.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, she actually told me to do what I want with Mindsight, to do as far as I want to do, which is seeing in other rooms and stuff in real time. She said, she basically said you have to do telepathy in order to do it. But she says it's definitely possible. And so I'm hoping I'll get there soon, I should say.
So, Dahlia, I was just thinking about the fact that, just to clarify for the audience, you keep mentioning the windows that people experience. And can you clarify, first of all, what windows are? And then can you clarify what seeing the room in real time means? Because that's another phrase we hear a lot in Mindsight practice.
Yeah, so the windows are ways to see the room in real time. Using with Mindsight, when I'm working with just the senses, we can actually pick it up with our mind's eye. So if I have the color green and I'm shaking it in the air, they might see the color green in their mind's eye. And so and it might be a flash, but I actually train it so that it stays there the whole time I'm holding it up. So that's what my goal is. So it's not just a flash and you're guessing, but so that's the mind's eye. And so some people might call that the intuitive. It's just as impressive to me, being able, because you can do a lot more with the mind's eye. Real time is seeing things. If I pick it up, you immediately see it as if you're seeing it with your regular eyes. And so through these windows, we call them windows, it's because it's like you're peering through and you're seeing in real time through these windows. And so the windows look like a bunch of holes in your mask or in your head or behind your head. That's what it looks like. It looks like these windows of light that is coming in. And if you focus in on that light, it's very similar. Or another way to say it is like it's almost like there is a hole in your mask and you're looking through the hole. Like it's look like there's a big window there that you can look through. So that's kind of what the windows are. And these windows will have different degrees of what you could do with them. Some of them you can see better far away. Some you can see better close up, like magnifying it. Some of them you can read, and some of them you can mostly just see color or shapes. And so, it's the sky's the limit with these windows. And Mindsight,
Wow.
it's not just limited to seeing with light either. You can see in the dark, there's a lot you can do. I've actually trained seeing in the dark, and I did that for months before I actually opened up the windows. And so when I had the blindfold on, I didn't have any bit of light coming in my mask for months. Nothing. And then, but I got really good at being able to see the outlines of everything. So I could get around. So it was really cool because I never had to turn on the lights. It was kind of like what a blind person goes through. They never have to turn on the lights. The person I worked with last week, though, in the beginning, she never turned on the lights when she went to the bathroom or something. But at the end, she was. So it was super cool. But yeah, so that's what the windows are. It's these areas where you can peer through and see. The blind, they have windows in places. They don't have a mask. I never have blind wear a mask. There's no point. So the person I worked with last week, her window was right here. And so it was really cool because when she's tracking things, if I move something, she can track it And it looks like she's using eyes because her window's right here. So she's always moving her head to wherever the item is. And I can tell her, hey, point to where something is. And she could just, she'll move her head towards it and she'll point. And so, yeah, it looks like she's using eyes. And it's super, super cool. She also has a window right here on the top of her head.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was just in her third eye area. And by the way, we're speaking about the person who does not have any eyes, like literally does not have eyes, and is able to track what Dahlia is moving around, is able to locate where things are in space. It's extraordinary. It's so amazing.
Yeah, she's able to name what's on the table. She's able to,
Wow.
there was this one video where she has a shape in the middle and then she has two colors on the side. And we just asked, hey, what is the, it was actually like the other trainer that took over after me. And so she said, can you tell me where the shape is? That's all she said. And the girl says, well, it's this color right here. I can't remember what the color is. So she goes, this color's right here, this color's right there, and right there in the middle is a triangle. She didn't say right there in the middle. She just said, and that's a triangle. So she was able to just kind of track it and say what so that she went beyond what the question was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean,
That's
there's a video of her with, I think it was with Rob Freeman, her teacher, the video of the two of them, which is not public. This is private right now, but we have seen it because we're in the training group with her. We know Rob. That he took her grocery shopping. And again, this is a person who does not have any eyes. I mean, I keep emphasizing this partially out of loyalty to Rob because he's created this wonderful brand for our friend. He's calling her the girl who sees. No, what is it again, Dahlia? She who sees with no eyes.
Who sees.
The girl without eyes who
Girl without
sees.
eyes
Thank
who
you. That's
sees.
it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And he took her grocery shopping and she went up to the chip aisle and was able to identify the colors on sour cream and onion chips. And also, I think the word onion or the word chips or something like that. It's just unbelievable. I mean, how is that happening? No matter what anybody says about the position of your mindfold, if it's too high or too low or whatever it is, this is the woman who does not have eyeballs telling you what's in front of her. It's just amazing. To me, that's proof of mindsight right then and there. Like any skeptic, once they meet her, because eventually, hopefully she'll be able to be more public with what she's doing, that will be absolutely undeniable. Because for somebody like you, Dahlia, who's so skilled and who is taking all the proper measures, the tape and the patches and the blindfold, and I've seen you with two blindfolds on, like one blindfold and another blindfold over that blindfold, and you're still seeing what's in front of you. Anybody who can say, oh, that's still not real because she has eyes and so she's seeing out of the corner or she's seeing out of this way, as soon as they see our friend, those thoughts are going to go right out the window because you cannot deny that this is happening. So it's quite extraordinary.
There will be people who say, she does have eyes. That's what they're going to say. There's no way she doesn't have eyes, Yeah, I actually took her out every day. And I said, I would just point out whatever we worked on that day. I would say, hey, like, for example, when we worked on the primary colors, I said, hey, let's look at these signs. And she can tell, and she's looking at these things for the first time. It's so fascinating. So I'm like, go ahead and look at this sign over there. And I looked at a Best Buy sign and she goes, what colors stand out? She goes, well, I definitely see yellow. And I'm like, yeah. And there's also a color surrounding the yellow. What's that color? She goes, well, it's blue. And so it's so awesome. Like I can ask her stuff like that, or I could show her a sign or something. I say, point to where the red is, and she'll point right to it. And so it was very, very cool.
Wow. And so for the audience, this is the person we mentioned that there's going to be a documentary coming out about. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Awesome. So the audience will get to see that in action. I can't wait for that. And also, I wanted to note that a few things. So is there actual like research being done with her or any sort of scientific measurement, or is that a different project that you're working on?
Yes, there is research being done with her right now. We had a researcher come in after the second week, and he was just blown away. The research was like, whoa, how is this even possible? And so that's going to be really, really cool when that stuff comes out.
Cool. And what you mentioned in your bio with regards to Stanford, is that something that you're doing or something that Lidu is taking part in?
So that's more of a Lidu thing. I'm always a part of it because I'm her communication person. But that is Lidu demonstrating telepathy in the most incredible ways. We've already done some experiments and they were very, very impressed. And what they've asked us to have her do, she can already do it. And it's so incredible. Like one of the things they'll be testing is that Lidu can demonstrate telepathy with me far away. And she's actually doing it independently. Normally when she communicates, I'm holding a letterboard. It's just to help her motor skills. It's really hard for her to focus in so many ways. But she's been training so that she can actually hold it by herself and do the telepathy. And she's actually shown us that she can also do precognition, which is mind blowing. That was an accidental discovery. But yeah, we're still working on all of this. So yeah, it's a very exciting time.
It really,
many
really
people
is.
interested in what Lidu can do, and because they've seen it, and there's so many people are interested. But yeah, like she is so dedicated to what she has to train. Because to her, all of these spiritual gifts, that is the easy part. The hardest part is to be like us and to communicate it. And so that's what she trains on. It's not about opening up her spiritual side. It's only about opening up her whatever this side is that we are really good at. And I don't want to put down this side that we're good at, because she actually admires that about us. She's like, wow, you guys have these senses that, she can do all kinds of stuff. That's amazing. But she's like, you have the sense where you can easily feel your body all the time. That's really cool. You have the sense where you can actually be able to detect time really easily. Like, yeah, to her, time is like the hardest thing. And so she relies on me heavily on helping her keep track of time. And that's why I'm constantly prompting her. You actually hear me saying, Lidu, keep going, because she'll just kind of drift off. But she said it many times, time is just such a hard concept for her. It's really hard. And she really loves that we can do that. And then she uses me for that. So there's things like that she sees that's very valuable that we bring. So yeah, it's incredible.
It's amazing. And what you're discussing, like, it touches both on the physicalist scientific side of things, as well as the more mystical and esoteric, as Sinead mentioned earlier. I mean, even like I have a friend of mine, his name is David Coleman. He's an astrologer and lives in Germany, I think, if he's still there. And he trained under these like magical traditions. And when I spoke with him, when I met him, he shared with me like a bit about his training, and he was following these old books. I forgot what they were called. There's like 3 of them, I think. And what he described in terms of learning how to properly visualize in order to manifest and create reality, it almost sounded identical to what you described, Dahlia, in regards to calibration and the way that works, as well as like the synesthesia elements to it, and like in training your mind to look at, to sense like the shape of something through color or whatever it is, like the different approaches in that way. It was the same kind of thing that he was telling me. And then interestingly, I was attending this panel discussion through the Scientific and Medical Network based in the UK, and they just had on a mutual friend of ours, Julia Mossbridge, about a month ago, talking about precognition. But this week they had Birdie Jaworski, this famous remote viewer, and what she was talking about in terms of like what you're actually trying to do with the hemispheres of your mind were exactly what you're saying as well. And she's like, we're not trying to actually shut down the right or the left hemisphere. We're actually trying to work with it and kind of train it on how to work better with the right. And yeah, it's fascinating to me how these topics are touching on some of these more esoteric and mystical forms of consciousness that we all have access to. And I'm excited to see what comes out of all this.
Yeah, and it's super interesting what you're saying, because with us, with the Mindsight group, we are trying to get them more in touch with the right side. But with my daughter, it's always about getting her in touch with the left side. And because she's far into the right. And so that's what's it's super interesting. It's so similar, but it's still a process I do with her too. Like it's a process that I gradually make harder and harder, but she gets really good. Because I always say the brain needs things to be a little bit stressful, and I only do the stress for about 10 seconds at a time, never too much, but that's how the brain knows, okay, I need to make this more efficient. I need to make this easier. And so that's why I purposely make it harder each time, so that there is a progression. And so I did that with my daughter, and she continually progresses, and she progresses so fast. That's another thing. The more you do this kind of a practice, the faster you progress. And so I noticed that with the lady with no eyes. I noticed that with her. In the beginning, it was really hard for her to kind of pick up the ideas, even though it was touching something she can grasp. Later on, I could just introduce the idea of light to her, and she was able to do it like nothing, because she had already had so much practice developing these other steps and had so much progression, and her brain got used to, okay, we're going to just get really efficient at progressing and just learning new stuff. And so, yeah, my daughter is also very, very proficient. Like when we introduce a new thing we want her to do, she picks it up really, really fast and constantly impressing me. When we did these experiments with Oh, thanks.
So do
No,
you.
we
I
look at
mean,
these
your
things.
progression is also astounding. Like, I mean, the fact that I just want to say this, so the audience really gets this. You and I were supposed to be roommates back in September 2024. That was your first Mindsight training. And then months later, you were a demonstrator for a group of students who were learning because you picked it up so quickly. And I know that's because you're very dedicated and very committed to practicing this, in every way that you can. You practice on your own, you teach other people, you help your daughter. I mean, it's so integrated into how you're living your life that must be a major natural advantage in terms of staying on that level and progressing and growing, deeper into it and how it all works. It's really fascinating.
So you haven't even been doing this for a year.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for that. Like,
Wow.
it's
less,
it's interesting.
less.
Yeah, Sinead and I were supposed to be roommates to learn it together, and
Mhm.
then by the time Sinead actually came, I was the teacher, so it was
Yeah.
just kind of funny.
Yeah,
Wow,
just
that's
a matter of
amazing.
months later. I mean, it's astounding. But of course, that's why, you had all these natural inclinations when you were a child and a teenager, and then you became an energy worker, right? You have this natural ability. You seem to have kind of come into this life with it, as your daughter also has. And so you're the perfect mother for her. I mean, you guys are just an incredible team. Really amazing. I'm looking forward to people seeing more of what you both can do individually and also together, because that was one of the most moving parts of your demonstration for all the people that were there, was seeing this
Mhm.
mother-daughter team, on stage together, demonstrating these abilities together and supporting each other. And there was love there, there was connection there. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, it feels really good. It feels really guided. I love that I'm with my daughter a lot, and I'm getting to
Hmm.
support her, and it's also a joint life calling that she's told me that we decided to do this together before we were both born. We made a contract together. And it all makes perfect sense to me, and it all working out exactly as she says. So
Yeah,
it's
it's quite
it's
amazing.
awesome. She chose me to be able, and I think this happens with a lot of the kids that have telepathy, or at least show their telepathy. I think a lot of them, they chose a type of parent that could help bring it out. So
Mm.
yeah, I've always wondered why I was honored with her before she even showed her telepathy. I thought, why was I giving such a amazing, brilliant child? And we'll talk about this another time about like how she had savant like abilities since she was a kid. And I always wondered, like, why was I given such an amazing child? I don't know. Like I'll try to live up to it, but yeah, I now I'm starting to see like my part in it, and so it's nice.
You're doing an amazing job. Are you kidding? Like, wow. I'm really looking forward to also seeing what she's going to do as an adult, because you'll still be around. You'll still be working with her. What's she going to be doing in 10 years? Because she's already
Mhm.
progressing by leaps and bounds. Yeah. Like you said, Dahlia, it's such an exciting time to be alive, because not only do the three of us and many other people like us get to practice all these things and learn them in a way that is unprecedented, really, in our generation, not to mention perhaps in our, since recorded human history anyway, that this much information and ability to practice and learn is all available to everybody all around the world because of the internet, basically, right? But
Yeah.
also to witness these young people that are coming into the world with these really incredible abilities. So anyway, we have more to talk about, and Anthony, I think this is probably a good time to turn it off so that Dahlia can go. It's 10 to 9, Dahlia. You've been very generous with your time. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you so much, Dahlia. We will continue this conversation in part 2 of this episode. We have a lot more to touch on. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear like if you or Lidu have like a taxonomy of different beings and how these relate to these experiences. I can't wait to hear about all that. So for the audience, thank you for joining us. Please tune in next time for the second part of this episode, and please hit those subscribe and like buttons to help increase our views and help us beat that algorithm, because it's pretty annoying. And if you want to follow us on all our socials, we're there as well. And check out our Patreon in the link below if you want to support us further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and do it again soon.
This is a blindfold mask. Do you want to try it on and explain what you can see?
Well, it's literally foam pushed against my head. You cannot even, it's almost unnerving. You cannot see. Total darkness. Uncomfortable color.
All right, so he is going to hold some colors in front of me, and we'll see what I can see.
Yes.
So those ones.
So what's happening here is Ron is going to have these colors. He gets to choose them at random. Dahlia has this blindfold on, or this mindfold. She cannot see, and what she's going to try to, or attempt to do, is tell you what color he has up.
Well, he has a pink one behind me right now.
All right.
Do you have him? Okay, now he has that greenish looking one. Green, yellow, greenish.
Yeah, neon yellow. Awesome.
And that one is an orangey looking one.
You can see here, she's put tape on top of that.
So I'm going to put these over my eyes.
She's going to literally put tape over her eyes. Miller, can you film this? So she's taping over her eyes, so you can't even see through these things alone. And then she's going to put the mask on top of that. Now here's what we're going to do. I have dry erase markers in my pocket and little dry erase cards. So we're going to walk together, we're going to come around the crowd, and whoever wants to, they can write any word they want on the card. And we'll see if she can see it. You guys want to pick any marker color? Okay, and now we're going to give you a dry erase card. Write any word you want on here. Okay. Everybody can see that up close here. Can you see this and the color? Troy, are you aware of what we got here? Okay. Okay, Dahlia, here's the card.
Okay, it says happy and it's in blue.
Not too bad, not too bad. Any marker? Okay. And now we want to write your word on that card, please. Okay, I'm going to show it to the people around here, the camera guys. Everybody can see this word.
Okay, it is baseball in red.
It's literally hard for me to read because it's kind of dark over here and it's written small, and she got it right.
So I've been using patches and a blindfold, so that's 2 layers. So now I'm going to put on these patches on top of my disposable patches, so that I'm having 3 layers.
So we're building up. We have now taped the eyes shut. Then she puts this on top. I mean, it's over redundant because when I put the mask on, it is total darkness, just the mask.
And one of the things you find is that everyone has a different evidentiary threshold. So for our minds to accept this, we have to go through all of these hoops.
So now I have the 3 layers. I have 3 layers. So I'm going to walk down with him again. And Ron, we're going to walk together, and someone could just open up any page in their pamphlet, and I will read whatever you point to.
We have 62 speakers, plus 10 podcasters, plus 5 filmmakers. We're going to pick one. There we go.
That one, it is Tracy, how do you say that? Barba Dolan. And it's kind of dark, but I'll read it. I put in a light a little. A prominent UFO researcher specializing in remote viewing, PSI phenomenon, or psi phenomena, and a little dark, and close encounters with an academic background in psychology and international studies anthropology.
How about a round of applause for that? This too?
The cover says it never happened. So
She's reading the cover before it even gets out here.
My fingers on
Okay.
sentence.
well, I have to turn it around to read. Is there something? Yeah, I can do that too, but not right now. Knocking on the truth door, but I can read the smaller print too. In the beginning of the post-WW2 era, there was a sense that the United States was top dog among nations and positioned as the greatest power in the world.
And this book is on sale at this conference.
So